What's going on YouTube? Nathan from the Fitting Bay, welcome to the channel. Today we're going to be looking at fitting these Rockford Fosgate 6.5-inch splits into a Renault Master. Now, it doesn't matter on the car. The way I show you how to do this, you can use on any car. Now the car doesn't have factory splits, so I'll show you how to surface mount these splits and the car will end up with splits. We've also got 6.5-inch speaker spacers. It's always handy to have these or make them, just in case. So we may or may not need these. Some of the stuff we're going to need today: soldering iron, wire strippers, pointy nose pliers, side cutters. We've got a drill here with Phillips head, or if you've got a screwdriver. I've also got some screwdrivers with Torx bits on them because it is a European car. You'll need flathead or a pick, electrical tape, solder, panel removal tool. It's always good to have plastic ones, a multimeter, some male and female connectors, and some screws as well. So if you've got most of that stuff, you won't have any problems doing this properly. First thing I like to do, ignition on, not wipers, and put the windows down. So when we pull the door off and unplug the connectors, you can't put the windows down. But what we need to do is make sure our speaker doesn't hit the window or the window bracket or anything like that. All right, we've got our tools and we're ready to start looking at how this door comes apart. So again, doesn't matter what car it is that you're working on, I'll show you what you need to do in order to get the door off. So first thing I always look at is this panel here. And if we have a look underneath, you can see that this panel goes up behind. So that means this needs to come off first. Do we see any hidden screws? No, or clips. So we can grab our panel popper and slowly start looking at just popping that off. It will just be clips. Once we've got that off, we look around. All right, if you can see, yep, in there, that's going to have a hidden screw behind it. So there's one. There's another one in there. There's another little panel that you can see will come off. So this panel will probably unclip. Yep. And then we pull that off. There was one here, but someone's already had a crack at that. That's probably one there. That's one there. And then we go around the door underneath, look for more clips. There we go. So like I said, Torx bit. So we'll undo those. And so again, doesn't matter the door, do the same thing, look at where there might be screws, and then we can start looking at unclipping the door. So we've unclipped this panel pretty easy. All right, you can see just clips. I've started undoing all of these screws as well, by the way, but before we start pulling everything off, we need to look at, obviously our 6.5 speaker will go here. Where are we going to mount the tweeter? You can dash mount it, you can mount it on the A-pillar. Here is nice, but when you close the door, that closes into here, right? So you can't put a speaker there, but you've still got all of this area here. And so that sort of ends up about here, which is good. So we'll put it there. Basically, we look at the back, we find where we could possibly mount it underneath that clip. So it is just surface mounted, so we're not going to hole saw. It'll just be a couple of small screws, sort of right here, and then we mimic that on the other side. We'll get to that soon. And behind that panel, there was also another screw. Just for anyone who might be lucky enough to be working on a Renault Master as well, this panel here unclips, and there's a couple more Torx bits in there. So it's mostly been T20 and T30 in this door, and there is screws absolutely everywhere in this car. So this is probably the most screws I've seen in a door card before, but that's okay. We haven't pulled too hard on anything. We've just taken our time and found out where the screws are, found out what panels come off before we do that. So these will be the last two screws and we can get that door card off. Alright, so we've got the door card off. We've removed any of the clips that were left behind with our pointy nose pliers and just put them back into the door card. And now we can look at testing this speaker. Okay, so this speaker is actually riveted into the door. So we're going to need a normal drill as well and some drill bits to drill that out. Okay, before we take the speaker out, while we've got it plugged in, I've turned the car on and we've got sound coming out of the speaker. I've stripped both of the wires. So what we're going to do now is put our multimeter onto volts. And we're going to probe each wire with one of our leads. So what I'll do is put it there so you can see it. Alright, hopefully you can see that. So I've already done this, but just so you can see it. When I put the black probe onto the purple and red trace, and the red probe onto green with red trace, you'll see the numbers there, and right next to DC on the left hand side there's a little negative symbol. So what we can do is make what our black probe is on the negative speaker wire, which is the purple wire, and I'll swap them around. And we get the same number. So now we've got red on purple and black on green, but no negative. Hang on, not on it. There we go. And but no negative there. So you get the same reading, but one negative, one positive. So what we can do is make the negative negative and that positive, and we'll do the same on the other side. And that way they're not out of phase. They'll be in phase together. So if you get them backwards, it doesn't matter. It's not going to blow the speakers up, but they'll be out of phase, so they'll sound terrible. It's better that they're in phase. So that's a quick, easy way to make sure they're in phase. Alright, so I've got drill with drill bit. I've already done one, so what we're going to do now is just push that on, put a bit of pressure. Just until we get it like that. That'll be hot. Pop that off. And we can use our panel removal tool. That came off pretty easily. Unplug our speaker. And now we remember what we're doing with our wiring. We're going to make purple negative. And so we can see there's no window or bracket behind the door, so we could mount our speaker right on here. The other thing we need to look at is if the speaker is too small. So we're going to most likely need those spaces anyway. So we've drilled out those rivets. Now we see the speaker doesn't really fit, doesn't really line up, so we'll have to grab those spaces. So we just line up our speaker spacer until it lines up with the door, so where we can see that it doesn't go through like that, which you can't really see, but we can see that there's metal behind here. So then we can use these 4 holes and use our screws and mount that. So we've lined that up nice right in the middle. We've got 4 screws, and we've put the screws in and drilled them just a little bit recessed so they're deeper. So when we put our speaker on, it sits flush. All right, so before mounting our speaker, we'll have a look at the wiring. So we've got 2 pins here that are fairly large, so we can't use a very small lug here. We can use normal there. So I've got 2 of these, and they're gonna fit on perfectly on both sides. Now, a lot of speakers come with speaker wiring. These Rockfords do not. Oh yeah, also, this is the input. This is the tweeter output. So the crossover is built into the speaker. Yeah, so like I said, they don't come with wiring. So we've just got some speaker wire here. You can't see that, there's a GoPro is not the best, but there's a white trace on this wire. That's what we make negative. So negative to purple, like we said, white trace. Positive to positive, green. Okay, so we've attached our wiring, as you saw, soldered everything up, taped it all together. The plug we've left, so if the customer ever decides to go back to stock, we can just plug the original speaker back in. This wire here comes in the speaker box, so this isn't wiring for the speaker like what we've done. This is the tweeter wiring. So you've got 2 female on one end, 2 males on the other. And so we've just, right above this grommet here, you can get through the door. So we've run in through the door. We've run the tweeter. We've now run our speaker. So we'll tape all this up to the loom together, and then we can start mounting our speaker. All right, so what we're gonna do next is split this. This is our speaker input wire. Strip a little bit off the end. Twist, twist. We've got those lugs. So remember, white stripe was negative, but in this case it doesn't matter what we put where in terms of these connectors. It just matters that we remember the white stripe was negative. We use our crimpers and just crimp that on. There we go. All right. And we see there's no copper exposed at the bottom hanging out. We've got the right amount of copper in there. Easy. So you see TWT for tweeter. You've got a fatter and a skinnier one. So the fatter one is always positive, skinnier one negative. Now we've got our input, same thing. So we find white stripe to the smaller one, negative. And the bigger one, positive. Now we can put that in there, straighten it up, and put a couple of screws in it, 4 to be exact. And so that's it for the front speaker. We've got our 4 screws in, nice and straight. Everything's held in, connected, wired up. We've just run our tweeter wiring here. Now, I'll keep this video fairly short. So the passenger side, I'm not going to video, but it's the exact same thing with the multimeter, the spacer, the wiring, everything's the exact same. So whatever you did on the driver's side will mimic on the passenger, but what I will show you is this panel here. So with mounting our tweeters, we want them to be exactly the same on both sides. So what we'll do is take this panel, we'll go and unclip the passenger side, and we'll take them over to the bench and get those tweeters mounted. All right, so what we've got is both of our panels off together. So I remember showing you at the start of the video, we're gonna go toward the top. So 2 identical panels. We've got this side being the corner and this side being the corner. So from the corner, what I've done is measured down this line from here, 2.5, and then we can measure in, say, whatever it is, maybe, again, say 2.5, right? So then you've got 1, 2 from the corner. So we need to mimic this side from the corner. 2.5 down, and then same thing, 2.5 across, if that's what we're gonna do. So tape measure, Sharpie, pretty simple, same thing. So you see lines like that on the panel, makes it very easy to sort of measure exactly where you want to put these tweeters. All right, so we've measured in. There's a very small little dot right there. It was 2.3 across that I did, make it sort of perfect. So 2.5 down, 2.3 across, and then we just measured here down to make sure it's still 2.5. Same on that side. So what we'll do now is get a 1/8 drill bit, or a very small drill bit, and drill into there, into those pilot holes, and then we'll flip the panel. So we've done our pilot holes. As you can see, they're identical. In the box, you've got a surface mount bracket. So now you can look at how you want to mount it. So if we go one hole to the left side or to the right, it's going to be too much over, so we go right there. If you want, you can put a hole in the middle and put that in the middle. Or you can just go over like that. That's still going to be perfect. So put one in there, put a small screw, that'll hold it in place. Drill a little hole through there for the wiring to go through. And then the wiring goes through, and you sit your tweeter in place and push it in. So this side is done almost. To show you guys, I've put 2 small screws. We've got that hole. Grab our little tweeter, feed the wiring through, push into place. You see that's out. Push until we lock it into place. And that is it, my friends. Both tweeters mounted. The last step was this little beauty panel. It just pushes on and clips on, and that's it. So that's how it will look. We've got that tweeter wiring, so that will just plug right into there. Speakers done. So for the passenger side, like I said, exact same thing. Everything we've done here, mimic it on the passenger side, so we don't have to video it and make a super long video. If you have any questions, just drop a comment below. I've got no worries answering all that stuff for you. If the video was helpful, smash thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, it really helps. And we'll see you in the next one. Thank you. So this is the finished product, guys. Sounds much better. Like I said, we just mimicked the driver's door on the passenger side. We undid all of our screws, undid this screw, pulled that out. When we're putting the door card back on, you want to slide the top in first, and then it will come down and line in, if that makes sense. So top clips in, and then you can line all the clips up. Check all your screw holes, make sure they're lined up. We put the factory speakers back in the box for the customer, and that's it, it's ready to go.